You can find skeletons all over LEGO, and even though a lot of them are props, others are real minifigures that actually died, and not every death is the same. Some are left to rot in cages, others get stuck inside caves, and the worst ones get shot out of volcanoes or beheaded by their own people. So today, I'm showing you the worst minifigure deaths in LEGO, starting with the booby trap victim in the Goonies set. This movie is about a bunch of kids who find a map for the lost treasure of One-Eyed Willie, and like every other treasure hunt, criminals are involved and people are dead. One of the scenes shows the skeleton of Chester Copperpot in the caves leading to the treasure, and LEGO actually recreated this in their set. Chester's skeleton is stuck under some rubble and has a tile piece of the copper bones key, just like he did in the movie. One of his legs is off to the side, showing how brutal this booby trap really is, but it's proved even further by LEGO's play feature of it. Any minifigure would obviously be crushed under these boulders, and Copperpot was no exception. But this skeleton actually comes with a missing leg, so LEGO included the other leg piece just for dramatic effect. They did this exact thing in the Forest Stronghold set too, and they even used the same minifigure. This set shows a seemingly abandoned castle that the forestmen actually live in. The room the skeleton is in clearly hasn't been touched in a while, and because of how the set is made, it's hard to tell what this room is even supposed to be. Regardless, the forestmen don't have a rival faction, and LEGO didn't say anything in the instructions about this skeleton, so all we know about them is that they got stuck on something and left to rot. Pretty brutal. A skeleton we do have lore on, though, is the one in the El Dorado Fortress set. This guy seemingly got stuck in a cave. I guess there are stupid people even in LEGO, but instead of chasing adrenaline, this skeleton was chasing a letter. LEGO tells us that how this skeleton met his fate is unknown, saying that he may have been trying to escape or went in search for the hidden letter. 2 instruction booklets before this, we place this letter in a box inside the cave, and LEGO asks us questions that we have absolutely no answers for. Since this set is based on a classic Pirates version, I tried digging around online to see if this letter had any lore I didn't know about, and not even the people on Eurobricks knew anything about it. So this letter and the skeleton are both completely open-ended. All we know is that this guy died slowly in a cave. The Lion Knight's castle set is also based on a classic theme, and since it's castle, of course, LEGO included a skeleton. The thing is, though, this is one of the most peaceful LEGO castles ever made. There isn't any fighting going on, and none of the knights are getting ready for war. Magisto even gives you lore, makes jokes, and rambles to himself in the instructions. LEGO actually describes this set as a haven for those in need, but that's definitely not the case for this skeleton. We've seen this trope a million times in Castle, but Magisto even joked about it in the instructions. Obviously, LEGO just meant for this set to be a walk down memory lane, but it doesn't change the fact that this guy died in what LEGO themselves called a haven. They made this set for their 90th anniversary, but they have something called the Bricklink Designer Program, where adult versions of classic sets like this one get made all the time. Ominous Isle is a very obvious callback to classic Pirates, and if you thought the last cage was bad, this one is so small that the person couldn't even sit down inside. This set is said to be the base of Captain Mutton Chops and his motley crew, which are brand new to the lore since this set is fan-made. But designer Jared Lacraz knew he had to make pirates more brutal. So he made their base a giant skull and dangled this poor skeleton over the water. There was absolutely no way out for this guy, so it's by far the worst death by cage in LEGO. But not every person in a cage is dead yet. The Crocodile Cage set shows an Islander minifigure holding a pirate in a cell, and based on the set's name, it probably means he's gonna be lunch for the giant crocodile. But that's not the death I'm talking about. There's a build right next to the cage that can only be the head of a different Islander on a pole. It matches the minifigure almost perfectly, and I don't know what the Islanders' laws are in LEGO, but clearly you don't want to break any of them. And speaking of things you shouldn't do, Indiana Jones is all about stealing ancient artifacts, so naturally there are lots of skeletons and bones in that theme. But the Temple of the Golden Idol set in particular shows what happens when you mess with something you shouldn't. This temple famously has lots of booby traps, but the most dangerous one is the giant boulder. and LEGO actually recreated it really well in their version, but they also showed someone who wasn't fast enough to escape it. This skeleton literally created an indent in the wall with their body, and even though it's based on a kid's movie, this is a pretty bad way to go out. The Temple of the Crystal Skull set is another perfect example. There are skulls all over this set, and there's even a play feature that drops one out of the sky, but there's also a fully formed conquistador skeleton. It's pretty rare to find one fully intact, but since this guy was a conquistador, it meant he was probably trying to steal from the temple, so he met his end under a staircase? Don't be fooled though, this is no normal staircase. It can actually rotate and drop you onto some spikes underneath it, so it's just as deadly as anything else. And this isn't the only dead conquistador in LEGO Indiana Jones. There's also one in the Chowchilla Cemetery battle set. He's lying right next to a treasure chest filled with loot, so obviously he was trying to steal. But we can actually figure out how he died with the set's play features. In the movies, this cemetery is protected by warriors who use blow darts, and LEGO included one that's supposed to hide under these stones. Anyone coming here is trying to steal the crystal skull, but the path to it has a surprise for them. The wall can flip around and throw them at the skull, at which point the warrior would catch them off guard and kill them with their blow dart. You're basically in for back-to-back jump scares followed by immediate death, which kinda sounds funny, but is obviously not. And this is actually a perfect segue into the Volcano Island set. Behind this giant skull is a treasure chest, and of course, a conquistador has already been here to try and claim it for himself. But somehow he died, and instead of just having him as a display piece, LEGO added a play feature where you can blow him out of the volcano. As a play feature, it's actually pretty cool, but when you look at this for what it really is, you realize just how bad this conquistador's karma really was. But even if he had a respectful grave, LEGO would probably defile it. The entire point of the Graveyard Mystery set from Hidden Side is to steal a soul artifact from a skeleton that's buried in a grave. Now, obviously, this whole theme is about the realm of the dead, but there's something about showing minifigures grave robbing that doesn't sit right with me. It's not just in their own themes either. LEGO's done it in licensed sets too. For a set like the Mines of Moria, they had to do what they did to be accurate to the movie. There are two skeletons in this set, and they both have their own gravestone play feature. They're based on the Battle of Moria scene, which happens in Balin's tomb. The fight is pretty big, so Balin's body gets disturbed in all the commotion, and LEGO added a play feature where you can break the tomb open. But the only reason this fight even started is because Pippin touched a skeleton and accidentally made it fall down a well, waking up the orcs. If LEGO was gonna make their set of this scene right, they needed to include this too. So they had us place a chain-wrapped skeleton on a sliding cover over the well, so we could remake that famous moment. But sometimes, LEGO throws in gravestone play features just because they want to. The Graveyard Duel set from Harry Potter has one where a skeleton just pops out of a grave. This set is based on Voldemort getting his body back after 13 years, but nothing like this ever happened in this scene. There's also this random skeleton sitting against a tree who also wasn't there in the original scene. However, Voldemort did have to steal a bone from his dad to get his body back, and one of LEGO's graves has been broken into, so they at least got one thing right. But they make mistakes like these more than you'd think. The Hogwarts Castle set from 2004 was released in the Prisoner of Azkaban sub-theme, and for some reason, LEGO added a flippable wall with a skeleton in one of the classrooms. There isn't a major death in this movie, and nobody ever found a skeleton in a classroom at Hogwarts, so this really just doesn't make sense. But getting back to the brutal deaths, the Rancor Pit set has a pretty bad one, and I think we all know why. This set is based on the cage that Jabba the Hutt keeps his Rancor in, and anyone that defies him gets tossed down into the pit to be the Rancor's food. They're absolutely giant creatures that regular humans stand no chance against, so it's not surprising to see a skeleton in LEGO's version. This isn't the only minifigure that's been food for a hungry monster either. The Aquabase Invasion set from Aqua Raiders has this giant squid build. And the entire plot of this theme is that these divers wanted a treasure on the ocean floor, but giant sea creatures were always getting in their way. The theme wasn't even around for that long, but LEGO built up the lore pretty well because a diver got eaten by this squid on one of their expeditions. This is a pretty crazy thing to include in a kid's toy, especially since he's actually in the right spot based on squid's biology. But I want to go back to Castle and show you the medieval castle set. It's a 3-in-1, and the first arrangement has a skeleton in a cage. I know, you've seen this a million times, but I'm showing you this one because LEGO put them right next to a food stand. Can you imagine being trapped in a cage knowing you're gonna die there, and the smell of fresh food being right next to you the entire time? And I thought Magisto's joke was bad. Clearly, LEGO's done a complete 180 from not even wanting to release the skeleton because they thought it wasn't family-friendly enough. But it's even more obvious in the Knight's Castle set. And not because of the skeleton in a cage. It's because this set is in the Juniors theme. When it was still around, this theme was for kids ages 4 to 7 years old. Like, look at the box it came in, bro. Regardless, I gotta move on from cages, so I can show you the skeletons in LEGO Ninjago. And I'm not talking about the Sulkins. Ninjago has dead minifigures just like all these other themes. One of them is the one with the black bandana in the Temple of Resurrection set, which I talked about more in a different video. But I completely missed a different one in the City of Styx set. This city is actually built on water, which is why LEGO added the blue plates at the bottom. But there's also a cave underneath the main temple, and apparently someone never made it out of here and didn't even turn into a ghost. I guess he's an example of why you shouldn't mess with Moro's army. And there's a similar message in the Shadow Crawler set from Exoforce. Like most LEGO branded themes, this one is about good guys versus bad guys, but these minifigs use mechs. The enemies were the robots, and to demonstrate how strong their new Shadow Crawler mech was, they kept the skeleton of a human in the back of it. This is definitely a pretty easy way to scare people off, and considering this thing is loaded with weapons, I'm assuming that skeleton didn't have a very pleasant death. The only seemingly peaceful one in this whole video is in the Lost City set. It's from the Bricklink designer program like Mutton Chop's base, and the whole idea was to build a once great city that's been lost in time and slowly taken over by nature. It genuinely looks really good, but the designer Thomas Lajon wanted to throw in some mystery. So he added a skeleton sitting peacefully at the base of the city, which sparks a couple questions. Why was this person left behind? And why did they die down here? If they were alone, they could have sat somewhere with a much better view. Another weird LEGO theme with a death is First LEGO League. This theme is all about educating kids about any topic through LEGO, and it actually just retired in 2024 after 23 years. With a theme like this, you might think I'm lying about it having a death, but it's in the Explore Submerged set, the last one they ever made. It was to educate kids on marine biology and deep underwater research, and I guess if you're going down that far, you might end up finding a skeleton. It's dark, but it's true. But which of these deaths do you think was the worst? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.